Doylon and his hat was almost down from the top of the sky. Yeah, you'd think the air would be getting pretty thin by this point. How are we even able to breathe? Oh, and don't worry, you don't have to remind me how high up we are. So, here we are in my favorite dungeon of this game, the Palace of Winds. Now, this is a pretty long dungeon, but unlike Temple of Droplets, this one's actually fun. And, of course, like the previous area, it looks pretty damn cool and has some good music. And actually, it's even better than the previous area. You know, when we were going and gathering those gold Kinstone pieces. Yeah, that pales in comparison to the Palace of Winds, because this area just looks so good, and this song's pretty good. I will admit, though, I don't like every part of this song. There is a bit of a lull. I mean, it sounds cool, but I do prefer one part of the song. And I think it's actually just about to come up. Also, boomerang these guys. Much easier. Okay, I know that Doylon was shouting for over a bit of that music, but yeah, I love that part of the song. It's absolutely amazing. This dungeon's so good. Also, don't run into those guys. Actually, haven't we seen those before? They're bombs, just in case we haven't, so they'll explode if you touch them, and there's a good chance that if you get hit by one of those guys, you'll just go careening off the platform, and, well, you won't die or anything, as per usual. You'll just appear back at the last safe platform, and you'll have a bit of damage taken off. And of course we've got bob-bombs, a little bit dangerous due to the fact that that area was a bit thin, but it wasn't too narrow where it wasn't like a nightmare to dodge them or something. And actually, I believe we're pretty close to the dungeon item if I'm correct. Yeah, we get it pretty damn quickly, which is honestly a good thing, because I like using it, because it's one of my favorite things in this game. It's one of my favorite items, so fitting we get it here, which is the place where everything good happens, and, uh-oh, mini-boss. Oh, more Wizrobe, my favorite. At least they die quickly, thanks to our cool sword. And, of course, we can stun them. So that was easy enough. Uh-oh, there were more, though. Tricky, tricky wizards. Yeah, you think you're done with them, but nope. They just keep spawning in. Ah, well. Well, you don't have a lot of room to move around. Thankfully, they're slow, and it's not like the original Legend of Zelda. They could get pretty bad in that game, but oh dear. Now there are 6 of them. Wait, copious wizards. Of course, since this is the 3rd round with these guys, you can be pretty safe in assuming this is the last one. I mean, that's my first guess. Oh yeah, and of course, spikes hurt. Don't walk on them. I didn't do it on purpose, so I'm not going to be too embarrassed about that. Also, got him accidentally. Thank you for coming back to me, Boomerang. Very polite of you. Oh, we can't get out of this area. Whatever will we do? Maybe use the Rockscape, which allows us to jump in a Zelda game. I mean, this is mostly an item in the 2D Zeldas. I don't think Rockscape has ever appeared in a 3D Zelda game. I can't think of one where that happens off the top of my head, but yeah, from time to time it does appear in the 2D games, and of course it's really cool here. Also, just jump on those grates, and you can flip by them and grab this ever so useful red Kinstone piece, oh boy. But yeah, seriously, cool animation, really helpful ability. It's just so very good, and the fact that we get it here so early on is very nice. Because honestly, this could almost pass for a final dungeon. It doesn't quite have the atmosphere, not quite there with the music, pretty close in both those regards, but not quite. Nonetheless though, we do get to use a lot of... Good job there, guys. We do get to use a lot of our items here, so I'm A-okay with that. I prefer it to be like that, you know. A Zelda game where you actually use your items in a dungeon. That's pretty good, and it's not even the final dungeon just yet. usually that's just something you do, you know? It's not until the final dungeon where there's a huge focus on... Oh, these guys will be easy. Where there's actually a huge focus on... Whoops. Where there's a huge focus on using all your items and not just the one you get from the dungeon. There, I said it.
Hey!
Of course, then there's something like Link Between Worlds, where even in the final dungeon don't use all the items, because the system in that game's not all that good. If the system's really dumb and I hate it, but that's an argument for a different day. So anyway, these fans can, of course, help or hinder us. Fan obstacles are usually like that in Zelda games. I mean, they are pretty good at dual purpose, you know. They're either used as a obstacle that will sweep you off a ledge, or they can be used to help you make a jump. But of course, we're not doing that just yet, so... Oh no, I spoiled something! Wait. Yeah, I already figured this out, but thanks for the advice, says Lo. However, I'm worried about these guys. Don't think I don't see you there, Ruby-like. I don't think I've ever been caught by one of these things. Thank goodness. Not even a normal like. I refuse to be caught by them because I hate them. Oh, and this one's a timing puzzle. Not a difficult timing puzzle, but, you know, just to make sure you've got this whole flippy gate thing down pat, they had to go down one, and up one. Simple enough, you probably won't screw that up. If I remember correctly, there's a bit of a weird momentum with a cape, but nothing you can't get used to when moving forward anyway. I mean, when you're just going straight up, it's easy enough, you don't move around. Oh wow, that was going super fast. So, a splitting puzzle here. Do I know what this is? I think this is an obstacle course. Seems like it. But not the obstacle course. There's definitely a tougher one. Timing is very strict on this, though. I just barely had enough time to complete that, actually. And I did that pretty quickly, so don't waste any time whatsoever, or you're gonna screw that puzzle up. Especially since there's no way to actually increase the amount of time you get from one of those sections. So we've got another obstacle course here. This is a bit more of a... I want to say hectic use of the Rock's Cape, but honestly, it's not really that hectic or frantic or anything. You do have to be quick though, otherwise, yeah, that's not going to work out too well for you. And of course those birds don't help. I'm kind of thankful I was doing a no-hit run, or I wasn't doing a no-hit run of this, because otherwise, I'm sure those birds really would have given me what for. They would have ruined many a run, as birds are wont to do because they're the worst. Oh yeah, and of course, there are Minish puzzles here. This game kind of alternates that, you know? Because the first dungeon there were no Minish puzzles because you were a Minish. Second dungeon, you were normal sized, so there were Minish puzzles. Third dungeon, you were also normal sized, but you didn't get an element there, so it didn't quite count. But yeah, third dungeon you did go in normal sized, so it could be Minish there. And in the previous dungeon, that was also a Minish dungeon, so no Minish puzzles. But now there is a Minish puzzle, and thank goodness for that. You know, it just wouldn't feel quite complete without a sort of Minish puzzle, because come on, these are one of the main puzzles in this game, so why not have you transforming back and forth? You know, if anything, I don't think this game does quite enough with it. I mean, it does a fair amount with transforming back and forth, but I feel like it could do a little more. Nope. Definitely be careful. I mean, for what there is, there are actually a lot of small little challenges and puzzles here and there for Minish Doylon to perform. It's just I feel like it could do a few more things overall, basically. Press this switch, and the door will open. Oh, and we get a free key for it as well, that we can't possibly miss. Well, thanks for that, I guess. Alright, so, continuing on. To be honest, I usually just default to Rock's Cape, because Rock's Cape looks cool, is cool in general. Also, I just like to make note, but as a kid, I always imagined Link would wear that just like by default whenever he had it equipped, because come on, don't tell me that thing wouldn't look cool. might not exactly match the color scheme of his tunic, but still though. I mean, if we had a blue tunic for Link, then, you know, that would definitely fit, but sadly, no, it's green, so it might be a little off color-wise. Ooh, and we actually got moblins. These guys don't really appear too often, especially within dungeons. In fact, this is the first time we've seen them in a dungeon. And of course, now we didn't see that one in a dungeon, considering he fell all the way to the earth. I feel bad for the poor guy. Oh yeah, and while I do really like the background here, at the same time I think it's worth noting, in the previous cloud top area, you couldn't see the ground, you could only see clouds from above. Here though you can see islands and stuff, so I don't quite get how that works. We're higher up and yet we can see more? Ah well, I suppose it makes sense insofar as they're giving us the better background. Plus, I suppose it also makes sense because we're seeing more than one island, I think, anyway. Unless this is just a very tiny planet, we're probably seeing more than one island here, so I guess that kind of makes sense. I wonder why we weren't able to see the rest of the whatever continent we were on. Well, Hyrule, as it's generally called. Yeah, I wonder why we weren't able to see Hyrule when we're in the previous area. Yeah, well, shouldn't dwell on it too much. Of course, I'm sure I and many other people probably dwelled on that heart piece over there. Because, trust me, I don't like that heart piece. We're not going to be finding that one for quite a while, or obtaining it for quite a while, rather. I mean, we can find it. It's right there. I can see it. But it's going to be quite a while before we can get it, and I'm always paranoid that I've missed it throughout this dungeon. Ooh, these guys. Oh boy, these guys are actually rather nasty. These are ball and chain soldiers, and honestly, I always have difficulty dealing with these guys. Especially if I don't have Sword Beam. Part of it is impatience, I will admit, because you kind of want to wait for them to swing before trying to attack them. And being off screen just is not going to help. But these guys first appeared in Link to the Past. In fact, the first mini-boss is actually Ball and Chain Soldier, wasn't it? Of course, he was a lot easier because you could throw pots at him. These guys, on the other hand, actually, this isn't exactly the best area to meet these guys, because it's not the smallest area, but it's a bit too enclosed for having two guys with a very wide radius of attack. It's hard to get near them, and again, two of them. That's my biggest problem. There really should have been one to start out. Because they're hard to deal with no matter what when there are two, but making you deal with two right from the get-go, that's a bit of a mean trick, and for some reason that door just wasn't opening for a while. Ah well, so we've seen the boss door, but of course it's going to be a little while before we can get to that one. In fact, I don't think the boss is directly after that boss door either, so don't think we're nearing the end just yet. We're only about halfway through. Actually, thinking about it, I don't exactly know what a halfway point here would be. We might actually very well be at the halfway point of the dungeon. Not quite sure. So, since we can only make 3 Doylons, make sure to remember to move a pot onto any one of the squares, or switches rather. I'm stepping on the squares myself, but it can be any one of them, just you gotta make sure to pattern out your Doylons in whatever order that, what's the word, incorporates that pot. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word, but whatever. Simple puzzle there, but oh, Moblin ambush. Oh, but now we got Icy Whiz Robes. These guys, of course, will freeze us solid, so avoid them. Plus, now we actually have this little wind obstacle in the middle. I mean, it's not going to blow us off a cliff or anything, but it will, however, separate the area and just prevent you from fighting normally, since if you walk into it, you'll just be blown to the back, and that's not good. Ooh. So we got Red Stalfos now. these guys fire out more bones, and I think they're a bit faster, and I don't think they jump around like their blue counterparts. I could be wrong about that. I do not remember their AI perfectly. And what do you know, Freaky right here. And, well, where else would we use it but right here? But first... yeah, that's actually a tactic similar to another thing in Link to the Past, actually. That's coming up quite a bit. And we get the big key. But again, not done yet. But, yeah, in that game there was the fairy power item, or mushroom. Forget what type of powder it was. Might just be... yeah, actually, it was definitely just magic powder, but... if you used it on certain enemies, it would turn them into fairies, and same is true here. Turns those guys into fairies. Yeah, me neither, Eslo. Me neither. But the platform is kind of telling us to go down, so, only one thing to do. Geronimo! Actually, wait, I should have done that with a Rockscape. That would have been stylish. Ah, damn it. Well, this Dark Nut won't be impressed, but oh boy, this guy is gonna be a bit tricky for sure. Because let me tell ya, there are no railings here, and Red Dark Nuts have the added ability of that little wind strike. Now, the nice thing is that does make them a little more vulnerable than they'd normally be, but that new attack, plus the fact that you can just be tossed off a cliff, yeah, this isn't exactly the easiest thing to deal with. And thank goodness I was just barely above that teleporter. So we took care of him in the end, but if there is any sort of halfway point, I think it would probably be here, because this is definitely the biggest change to the dungeon. In fact, we haven't even really been inside the dungeon until now. So, welcome to the official entrance. Apparently Eslo doesn't want to be here, but, you know, I don't mind this place going on a bit more. But we do have a dark room, so of course that means lantern. And now that we're in the palace proper, there's still more keys to find, and, ooh, more of these guys. So I'd just like to point out that Sword Beam is a pretty good way of dealing with them. But because of the HP that they have, it does take longer to actually kill them than using the lantern and stabbing them to death when they're Stalfos. But the thing is, that method does put you at risk for getting hit, because you might just lapse into their hitbox a bit, and I don't really care for that, so I'd prefer to Sword Beam them personally. Oh boy, more blue chews. These guys are appearing more often, aren't they? And don't worry, these aren't any sort of death pits or anything. Fall down there and you'll just fall to the previous room. If ever you see a little detail like that, like, see, you can see the platforms below. If it's just a black hole, then it's a pit that will hurt you if you go down it, but we do need to go down here in order to grab this key, so they do indicate that you can go down there, so that's nice of them, and they're good game design. Man, I sure am happy that they are doing the basics to ensure that this game does not suck by making it impossible to know whether or not something is going to hurt you. Alright, well, more peahens to take care of. I forget if the boomerang affects the ones that were annoying me earlier. But, either way, we've got another puzzle here. Of course, if you happen to break any of these, then just leave the room and come back in. But you should be getting out of here quickly enough where none of those will break and make holes. Alright. I will admit, I don't mind the interior section too much, but the outside sections are definitely much cooler looking. But then again, I always have been a fan of areas where you sort of dart in and out of a palace or building or something like that. So a sky palace that you go in and out of, and now we're going around it like this, and now we're actually floating around it, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of that. Oh, and of course, goes without saying, but avoid bombs. Do not get blown up. Ooh. If you have to, do just try and sort of maneuver around them. I barely had enough time where I didn't have to do that, which is good because it is kind of hard to maneuver around them, admittedly. Alright, taking care of more Gibdos. He just seemed insulted that I had shot sword beams at him. wasn't really trying to lunge after me. It's just like, dude, why? Why are you doing that? Alright, simple spin will take care of this, but of course you have to spin correctly, like that. What is up here? Ah, we've actually already been here before. So yeah, this should look familiar. We're here to press this switch, but now we're actually going to explore this area proper, and looks like there's something important down there, but let's not do that just yet. Let's make sure we've covered all our bases around here, because if you'll remember, there is an open door, and I got to explore it, so, oh no, fire whiz robes. Yeah, they kind of just introduce all the whiz robes in this dungeon. This is also partially the Wizrobe dungeon, but I believe I've mentioned this before, but Wizrobes have never been more annoying than they were in Zelda 1. Or Four Swords. They're also pretty bad in Four Swords, just because of that one optional dungeon that I went on a tangent for earlier on. But, nonetheless, in this game they're not so bad. Even when they get into other elements, really they're not bad at all. And did I seriously just barely not pull that lever long enough? Oy, pedantic thing. Ah well. So this top floor should have something. Just get these Gibdos out of the way first. Oh jeez. Now, what's the puzzle around here? It has something to do with normally arrows, but I think I can actually sword beam this. Or I could just use that handy old thing. If for some reason you've never actually hit the bomb enemies before and you don't know that they're bombs, it might be a bit of a difficult puzzle just because you don't know that that will cause that reaction. But I think it's safe to assume that if you've explored everything else and you come over here and you see, how do I bomb those blocks over there if there's no way to get over there? Wait a minute, that thing's moving around suspiciously. Maybe if I hit it like this, then it'll blow up and it'll be a-okay and you can move on. I can see how there would be a small problem, but honestly by this point, I think it's kind of hard to assume that someone wouldn't have seen that those things explode and are, as such, bombs. But I mean, if you've somehow managed to do no-hit run, it could be problematic. Let's see, over here. Oh, this is where you get the piece of heart. See, I told you it'd be quite a while. I mean, I guess it hasn't been that long, all things considered, but we are very nearly done with this dungeon, so most of the dungeon passed by before we were actually able to do anything about that. So, with that done, let's actually make some progress now. I mean, the heart piece was pretty important, so we did have to go after that. And I am not backtracking just to get it. Well, I would have if I had to backtrack to get a piece of heart. But the point is, I don't want to backtrack to get a piece of heart. So I'm not going to do that. And, of course, we're going to do a quick check to make sure we got everything up here, because, well, we haven't. So I don't want to use my key just yet, and damn it. See, this is the problem with using the lantern. Sometimes, i.e. most of the times, you might not actually light them on fire. When that happens, you lose quite a few hearts. I do not appreciate this in the slightest, I've got to say. I will file a complaint. I don't know where I go to do that, but I will. Trust me on that one. And we're still not quite out of this area just yet. Still have yet to escape the building. But I believe we are very nearly out. And you're not hiding from me, bombable wall. Come on, I see you there. I know you're there. But this is actually kind of a neat puzzle, and we'll want to keep this one in mind. Because we'll bomb this wall. Wait for the explosion. And now we're outside. But where do we go from here? Oh geez, my butt's on fire. Once Doylon could stop running around frantically, you might notice there's nowhere to go here. Well, that's because you gotta blow up this wall. So yeah, that's actually a pretty neat puzzle. It generally tends to throw me off more than I'd think. But we do want to keep that one in mind. Ooh, this one's tricky. We do want to keep that one in mind because it will come into play later. You're going to use it again, and you do not want that switch to be pressed, so do not run into the obstacles here. And just like that, we can obtain yet another key. And, oh, most of those are dangerous, and look at that, there's another boss door. Of course, the nice thing is we can just open that one up this time. You know, since it's still opened by the big key, and we have the big key, we don't actually need to worry about finding yet another big key. That sure would be something if you had to find a second one, and in fact that might throw you off since, you know, you see the big old door, you're expecting you need to find something for it, but you already have the key to that puzzle. Quite literally, you have a key. So, this area is one I recognize as being very nearly the end of the dungeon. So we're almost done here. We just have to traverse this, not really a maze. I mean, there are a few dead ends, but that doesn't mean it's a maze per se. Get a blue Kinstone piece, not terribly useful, but hey, at least there's, not a treasure chest on the map anymore. Gotta get that 100% completion, I tell ya. Take care of the wizard, get annoyed by these guys. Now, all in a day's work for Doylon. Okay, you know what, screw the safe way, let's just take them on head on. Of course, the Rock's Cape is useful here because gotta go around. It is a bit stiff, but you do want to maneuver around the spikes just like that. I mean, it's not like you can't land on the cracks, but it's a lot less risky to be able to go around them than on top of them. Because otherwise they might form a hole, just like that. And if these are any indication, yeah, this is the only way out of this maze-like area. Because that's just a dead end. So yeah, that's kind of a neat puzzle. Just, it's a pretty obvious indication, but nonetheless, I think it's pretty neat. So I believe this area is a side area where we can just break some skulls for stuff. And indeed it is. The boss door is over in that direction. Oh, and most of those were actually skeletons. Darn it, I didn't think there were skeletons attached to those skulls. I was tricked. I'll never trust a skeleton ever again. Truly, I will never let another skeleton inside my body. I can never let that happen again, I'm just too shielded against them. Alright, well, we are actually just about done here. So, after I break some more skulls... Now, of course, this dungeon has been pretty great overall so far. So what would a good dungeon be without a good boss? We open yet another boss door, find ourselves in this passageway. Ooh, and now we have to go even higher. Still questioning how we're breathing at this point. So, our boss for today is going to be the Georg pair, I believe they're called. So yes, this boss is very cool, because now we actually have to utilize the triple Doylons. Break one Georg's eyes, and this Georg will come in, and now we have to dodge a whole lot of stuff, while attacking its eyes when they open. This is pretty simple, because it'll only swing its tail around from time to time. And you can tell when it's going to swing, because it just completely stops. And I believe it goes in the reverse direction of wherever it stops, like if it starts to the left, then it'll swing right. And now we keep flying, but I believe we'll have some obstacles added. Yep, the most annoying by far. So just FYI, the smaller blue Georgs are the males, and the giant red ones are the females, as we'll learn from the figurines later. So yeah, it's the dude that's shooting us with bullets constantly, and I can't really say I care for this. You definitely want a time when you actually form the Doylons, otherwise he'll just interrupt them completely. This is definitely the trickiest part of the fight, I'd say, so do be wary of where you actually form. Ugh, and you can't be interrupted just like that. You do have to attack all three eyes at once, and they do have a certain amount of HP, a take before they go down. I don't think there are too many left here. Yep, took care of those, and now back onto this one we go. So, yeah, I just love this battle so very much. It's so cool, because we're just riding on top of these giant manta rays and just attacking them constantly. And I think there are actually multiple of each, like there are multiple red and blue Yorgs. So, yeah, we're fighting a fair amount of bosses at one time, and now they're just sending a whole bunch of green guys at us, and I don't even know what those guys are. They're probably just babies, but now, oh yeah, it's more of this. More of the same, just in a different direction, and I'm pretty sure this Yorg is actually very aggressive, so he's going to be firing a whole lot of projectiles at us. I don't appreciate that, so we will be breaking your face soon. Damn it. Wait. But I do love this battle because it incorporates both the splitting mechanic, which we don't actually see too much, as well as the Rock's Cape to dodge certain attacks, which I definitely appreciate that. You know, a bit of a tangent, but I will admit, one of the few things I do like about Link Between Worlds is how well they actually utilize these clinging to walls mechanic. You know, sometimes Zelda games do seem to forget that they can use a sort of central gimmick, like, here it's small, but you can split into multiple Doilons. I mean, the other central gimmick is the fact that you can turn tiny, but, you know, in this case, splitting, it's a mechanic that doesn't get used too often, so the fact that it gets used for a boss is pretty cool. Makes for a very cool boss. It also means that we're not only using the Rock's Cape for this battle. And yeah, that's actually all the blue Yorgs taken care of, so now it's just this final one right here. And honestly, these guys are a lot easier to take care of, because they don't really come at us at all angles, and you can just stab them out of the way, and they come less frequently, so with that, we're done. Take that, Yorg pair. This battle is over and done with, and of course, that can only mean one thing. It's element time. Yep, that's our fourth element. Fourth and final. Been quite the long journey up to this point, but with this, we can go back to Hyrule Castle and complete the sword. But of course, before we do that, we're going to be picking up a heart piece, or heart container rather, and next time on Zelda Minish Cap, of course, we'll be using the Rock's Cape to get some more items.